IHT, inheritance tax. It's basically a tax that could be due when a person dies. Okay, a good question. Essentially, we need to carry out a calculation um, and how much or whether or not you'll be liable for inheritance tax. It will depend on your personal circumstances. So if you have children, if you've got a house and the house value, if you're married, various factors like this. Every individual does, yes, but then there are some extra allowances depending on the value of your property. And sadly, the system's somewhat biased against single people or unmarried individuals. So there's some extra planning that's needed if you're in that circumstance. So good question. So there are a number of things that you can do. You can give money away before you die, although it's important to plan how and when you do that because there's a certain period of time that comes in to be a factor. You can use trusts to try to avoid the tax. Again, some different complications there, but can be a very good method. It's possible to insure yourself against the tax in some circumstances. That doesn't actually pay the tax, but it does give your beneficiaries a way that they can settle the bill. And lastly, we can use business relief schemes, which have been introduced essentially to help small businesses continue, but there are some mechanisms that firms have used to use the legislation that's there, and excellent way to plan to avoid inheritance tax. It may, but again, there's some complexities around that. It's certainly not something that should be done lightly. And as a general rule, we wouldn't advise that. But again, you need to have a chat about the circumstances. Yes, it can, if that's the correct thing to do at times. But again, it comes with some complications that you need to be aware of. So it's important to understand the situation, and then you can weigh up for yourself whether or not that's the right decision to take. Yes. So I'm sure they would encourage that. But obviously you need to think about your own situation and whether or not that might be needed for the future for yourself. Long-term care is often a factor that we would need to consider. So some plannings are needed there. Often you can make substantial gifts to your children, but make sure you leave enough to keep you in the manner to which you've become accustomed. There are, yes, so there are some reliefs that everyone gets. Essentially, you're allowed to give away £3,000 a year and not worry about inheritance tax. And then some small gift allowances, £250 per individual that you give into. And there's also a nice one, if you have more income than you spend, you can give away surplus income with some caveats. But that's an excellent way to use the gifting rules to reduce your inheritance tax bill.